welcome to another episode of Get Out of Rap TV, February the 20th. It's good to see you all. It's good to be back. I say it like I've been away. I haven't been away at all. I'm a bit older, but aren't we all? So, really good show lined up for you today. We are joined by the living legend that is Danny Wareham on another GOOWx. Let me first start by saying, of course, if your comments are not showing, I'm not ignoring you. Please just refresh LinkedIn. And secondly, I'm able to do this as a job. Well, this and other things, but I'm able to do this and bring you everything that there is to know about contact centers. And we have some great conversations thanks to my partners, and that is DDC, OS, Evaluation, and OneCom, plus the forum. But you guys, thank you very much, especially you three at the top. I really appreciate your support. Let's start with saying hello in the comments and what caused you to laugh last. What was the last thing that made you laugh out loud? Hello, Darren. How you doing? Good morning, sir. Good to see you. Yes, Raymondo is here. Tristan, hello, mate. Look how handsome Tristan is, and a lovely fella to boot as well. So, please do, if you're watching and you haven't ever dropped a comment in, come on, do it. We're a friendly bunch here. We don't bite. So say hello in the comments. Here he is. He's multitasking. That's impressive. Yes, the main man. So what caused you to laugh last? Ah, lovely Katie. Hi, Katie. Katie from OneCom. And I've got something on that in a second, a really interesting event happening. So if your comments are not showing, I'm not ignoring you. Please just refresh LinkedIn. What caused you to laugh last? And these little questions are just a way for us to get to know each other a little better. Last laugh was probably something smutty. Guaranteed that Bev will kind of help us, will get us off and running in kind of carry on style. Oh, hi Kirsty, how you doing? Lovely new profile picture there, by the way. Good morning to you. What was the last thing that caused you to laugh out loud? And when I wrote this, I was thinking, oh, what was mine? And it was probably something on Sunday. That's when I play football, and we have a mixture of standards, which always leads to something funny. I think it was probably one of the lads not being able to get their bib on, and he put his head through the arm bit backwards. So it was actually harder to do that than put the bib on normally. So anyone, here we go. Tristan says, crying with laughter over the weekend, playing Articulate. Oh, I love a good board game. Maybe that should be a question with some good pals. The booze probably added to the amount of laughter. It does help, doesn't it? That's a cracker. Remind me again, Tristan, Articulate. This way you get something and you're a certain words you can't say. I do love a board game. Danny says, I rewatched Austin Powers. The montage scene where he has the Reebok pump shoes that explode in his face always makes me chuckle, even though I've seen it 20 times. My favorite scene from that film is where he's trying to reverse the car in the corridor backwards and forwards, because that must be used quite a lot in just normal day life in the family, where if I'm trying to get into or out of a multi-story, Bev will often say to me, this is like Austin Powers as I'm doing a 92-point turn. Who else has got one? Come on, what made you laugh? And did you know actually that the amount we laugh compared to children, it kind of kind of life kind of batters it out of us, doesn't it? So we should laugh more. There should be more occasions where we allow ourselves to laugh. Good morning, Alan. Good to see you. When was the last? What last caused you to laugh out loud? Describe the word. Can't say. Starts with, rhymes with, sounds like. Oh, I like it. That might be my question for next week, Tristan, about board games. I want to get some new ideas. Um, there's a game that's famous in our house because I love it, but no one else does. Everyone else hates it with a passion, and it's Flags of the World. I've kind of made up my own rules for it as well, but it's literally that you just get shown flags and you have to say what country they're from, and you get given some clues if you need them. But I love a good flag. Okay, and now then, before I lose myself in too many tangents, we have now I'm going to invite him into the studio, I think, as well as being an all-round superstar. Hold on, let me just get rid of this one. Here he is.
Oh, I just put my clothes on as well. That was lucky.
I was trying to catch you. Danny, welcome to Get Out of Rap TV. I wanted you here because you love a good VT. Danny has graciously given up his time today to share some of the huge knowledge that sits inside that lovely brain of his, for the second ever GOOWx. Happy bees make tasty honey. But without further ado, Danny, are you ready? You love a good VT.
I see why you kept it a secret with our little chat before. Now that's fabulous. That's fabulous.
We'll do it one more time, and then I will leave the studio and leave you to it. Okay, everybody, here is the amazing Danny Wareham.
That has ringtone written all over it, doesn't it? So morning, everybody. Most of you, I think, know me already. Thank you, Bev. My name's Danny. I'm a business psychologist, and I've been in contact centers for not quite as long as Bev, but we're pushing 30 years now. So I've seen a little bit of everything. Started on the phones, worked in sales, worked in outsource, worked in resource and planning, kind of all over the place. But my bag is culture. So how do we create environments where the behaviors that we want for our businesses are aligned to our strategy? And a lot of organizations approach this kind of end on first. They start with things like perks and let's throw some pizza Fridays and beanbag furnitures and incentives at it. Whereas I'm far more strategic around how do you nurture the right environment. So I've got an interest in personality, and that's what we're going to discuss this week, because it ties nicely with Clayton's GOOWx from last week. But what is personality? We often say things like he's fun or she's got charisma or my boss has got no personality, but what actually is it? And for me, it has three main parts. The first is trait. So these are the parts that are innate to us individually. They're internal to us, and broadly, they don't really change through your life. The second is state. So these are things that happen to you externally. So for example, you might be a really friendly, gregarious, happy-go-lucky kind of person by nature, but if you've just pranged your car when you're pulling up for the job interview or tipped a coffee down you, then the state that you're in might mean that your personality is shown differently. And the third part, which we don't often talk about, I will call mate. And these are the social norms of the group around you. And they will change how you behave, how you show yourself, based on the groups that you're in. So, for example, the language that you use and the way you behave when you're with your family might be different to when you're with your friends, might be different to when you're at work. And that doesn't mean you're necessarily being inauthentic. It's just that your personality manifests slightly differently because we are shaped by our thoughts, our feelings, and our environments and our relationships. So how that ties in with contact centers, if you think about it, is that team and culture can affect personalities within the group. So the way we set up our teams, the way we set up our organizations can actually encourage certain behaviors and certain personality traits to manifest more freely. Now, many of us will have heard of things like personality tests. So first thing, if anybody says personality test, run. It's not a test. There is no pass. There is no fail. There is no good. There is no bad. There is no score. It is not a test. It's an assessment. All personality attributes, all personality traits have a benefit in some situations, even ones that we might think are bad. So things like MBTI, Myers-Briggs, DISC, Clifton Strengths Finders, Wave, Flow, and all these other psychometric type tests, they're not tests, they're assessments. How we as psychologists examine personality is through a process called the Neo-PIR. And what this does is it looks at 5 main categories of personality, and each of those 5 has sort of 6 subcategories or facets underneath it. And those 5 you might have heard of. They're called the Big 5, the 5-factor model, and it spells out an acronym, OCEAN. And each of those letters is a different factor within personality. And I'm going to talk through the 5 briefly, and then we'll come on to how those impact within teams, relationships, coaching sessions, and your approaches to things like targets in the contact center. So I will reiterate before we get into this, there are no good or bad. Whether you're low, we'll start with O, which is openness, whether you're low openness or high openness, there are benefits to both. So there is no right or wrong answer in personality. Openness is about being open to new experiences, open to change, etc. And if you are low openness, then we have a tendency to prefer to follow routines. We have an appreciation of the now. We tend to be a little happier, in fact, with the small details that are going on today. But the trade-off is that, we're also really good at implementing change. The trade-off is we may question change, and we might be so stuck in the detail of today that we miss the bigger picture. Openness at a high end, people tend to be more open-minded and willing to try new things. But again, the flip side of that is they may be unrealistic, and they may be overcomplicating because they're stuck in that big picture future view. So that's O. The next one is C, which is conscientiousness. At the low end, I'm low conscientiousness. At the low end, motivation to get stuff done tends to be a little bit lower. But the trade-off is people with a low conscientiousness tend to be better at making decisions under pressure. And there are also health benefits of having a more laid-back, relaxed approach as well. The high end of conscientiousness, those people tend to be far more organized, less cluttered in their life. They like to-do lists and things like this. And they also tend to be more compliant and rule-following. Next letter is E, extroversion. At the low end, we have people that are reflectors, listeners, and they think to speak. So they ruminate first and then say it out loud. The trade-off with low extrovert or introverts is that they can be drained by other people's energy, by stimuli. And also they can be poker-faced because they ruminate and they're considering their thoughts first. They don't often give it away when they're actually reflecting. At the high end, high extroverts crave that external stimuli. They're the kind of people that sit in the office with the music blaring and they're looking at the phone and they're typing away and there's lots of things going on all at the same time. And they also speak to think. So they will say things because that's how they process the information in their head, which means the first things out of an extrovert's mouth tend to be rubbish because they haven't thought it through yet. Excuse me. And also because they crave that external stimuli, if they don't get it, then they can take that as being dismissive of them, that they're being rejected. And we'll come on to that in a little while. Penultimate letter is A for agreeableness. At the low end of agreeableness, those people are straightforward communicators, and they tend to be more competitive. Excuse me. And they're very good where they need to get things done where emotional connection is not required. So if it's just I need to get this across the line, but they can be perceived as stubborn or stingy, so not very generous. At the high end of agreeableness, these people tend to be more altruistic, more warm, more trusting. But again, the trade-off is they can be over-trusting people pleasers that take on too much at their own detriment. And then the last letter, which is a personal favorite and is often missed from some of these personality assessments like DISC, is neuroticism. And neuroticism is how stable you are with your cognition. So at the low end, you get people that are very calm, stoic, a very emotionally stable decision-making. I'm a low neuroticism person, but the trade-off is that they don't always have the cognitive abilities to deal with stress. So think of it as the length of your fuse on your dynamite. Low neuroticism has a really long fuse on their dynamite. High neuroticism has lots of bits of dynamite with short fuse. So low neuroticism, it takes a long time before they blow, but when they do blow, it's a big explosion. And these people, because they don't always have the cognitive skills of things like resilience and grit, because they're so kind of stoic and deal with things just water off a duck's back style, actually when things go wrong in their life, they can really struggle. And they actually get a bit of a double whammy because they're perceived by their social groups as being really strong, dependable people. So they get comments like, oh, there's plenty more fish in the sea, or there's better jobs out there, or they're better without you. And they don't get the social support either. At the high end of neuroticism, it's short fuses. These are your people that may appear to fret and worry more. They tend to be more negatively affected by negative thoughts. But because of that, they have more resilience, more grit, because if you're always having darker thoughts and darker experiences and worrying, when things do go wrong, it's just another day. Okay. So that's the ocean model: openness, conscientiousness, extroversion, agreeableness, neuroticism. Now, how does this play into presenting, coaching, one-to-one sessions, target setting in your contact centers? Well, let's play a couple of scenarios through. Let's do just one trait at the start. So let's just do extroversion and introversion. Imagine you're an extrovert that is presenting to a group, and in that group, there are likely to be introverts. An extrovert is craving the attention, craving the stimuli, rather, from the audience. So if there are people in the audience that are sat there poker-faced, absorbing the information, processing themselves, thinking it through and ruminating as introverts do, what does the extrovert think? Well, they feel they don't love me. They're not paying attention. I know what I'll do. I'll dial it up. I'll get louder. I'll make more jokes. I'll make my points. I'll ask questions to test if they were listening. Okay. And the introverts of the room, you've just disengaged because they're going, what the hell's going on here? You know, I was quite happy. I am engaged. I might not look it, but I'm processing all this information. Okay. The other thing we see, I quite like in contact centers, is I call it prairie dogging. And you'll see a extrovert that's not getting the stimuli they need, and they stand up and they look around the contact center and they see a little old introvert over at the coffee machine, think they must be lonely. I'll go on over and have a chat with them. And they wander on over and they get their blah, 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 and get their stimuli and their fix for that moment. And in the meantime, they've sapped all the energy out of that poor introvert, okay, who was quite happily just in their own thoughts, ruminating on what's gone on in the day. So we need to be aware of what our tendencies are and what the people around us are. And that's just one tenet. Now, I want you to imagine that we have two people who are low conscientiousness. You've got two Dannys. Martin, I'm sorry to call you out, but this also includes Martin as well, because people with low conscientiousness tend to be big picture thinkers and loads of ideas. So if me and Martin are talking, if we are having a coaching session, then there is a risk that our conversation becomes very big picture, lots of ideas and inspiration, and we both feel really charged up by that, but there's no action or anything that actually comes out of it. There's no structure, there's no planning. And actually the thing that initiates the action with people like myself is the deadline. And we end up with, we've done nothing until the 11th hour, and then suddenly we've got this flurry of activity that happens at the last moment. And that obviously introduces risks to delivering against KPIs. So we need to be aware of that. If you had two people that were the opposite of Martin and I, that were high conscientiousness, in theirs, they would have lots of planning. There'd be plans and backup plans and contingency plans and more plans, and potentially the same issue, that over planning, there's no impetus to actually get the work done. Okay? They're too into the detail. So if you're a low conscientiousness person and coaching another low conscientiousness person, that's the risk, is that it's too pie in the sky, too abstract, too big idea and no action. If the reverse is also true. And then, of course, you have multiple facets, because we're hugely complicated animals. So what happens if you have an individual that is low extroversion and low neuroticism? So they may typically think and reflect, but they also have this poker face that doesn't really show. And at the same time, because of their low neuroticism, they may be quite stoic, and actually, even when they're going through some things, they don't share that either, because they've got broad shoulders and they can deal with it. So in those examples, the people that are quietest in your team, if they have these potential personality traits, then actually they might be going through some real stuff, and we're completely unaware of it because they don't look like they're going through it at all. And this is why in things like engagement surveys, we tend to look at the really negative scores or the really high scores. Actually, there's a huge amount of value in talking to those people that are your steady eddies, that never rock the boat, that just come in, do their job and go home, because there's always a potential that there's other things going on in there that we're just not aware of. And then the last one before we come into the so what is low openness with high conscientiousness. I particularly like this. These are the people that are not going to sugar the pill. They're the ones that will tell you, I'm telling you this for your own good. I don't care what you think. Evidence is evidence. And if we're not comfortable with dealing with low openness and high conscientiousness in an individual, it can be seen as a combative conversation. Whereas actually it's not combative at all. That's just how they process the world and make sense of the world around them. So you can see personality completely changes the way that people interact with each other. And that's why we tend to click with certain people and not with others. It's also why we clash with certain people and not with others. But as leaders in our contact centers and leaders in our teams, we have some flexibility, because our impact, we change the environment, we change the culture, we change the relationships, we change the state and the mate. So even when we have people with traits that might be a little alien to us or a bit uncomfortable to us, we can actually influence how their personality manifests. And it's up to us to create the environment where people can contribute in a way that is not perceived as dismissive or combative. So how do we do that? And there's a couple of takeaways for us. The first one is know yourself. What are your tendencies? I am low conscientiousness. I know I am pie in the sky, pull together lots of abstract ideas and do things. I need to be aware of that, because when I talk, it's very easy for me to kind of daydream off and introduce other things to the conversations, which means instead of being a 15-minute conversation, it's now an hour conversation, and I've probably disengaged a lot of people. So I need to be aware of that. I need to know that I don't like to-do lists. It's not comfortable for me to do to-do lists. We have to do things that are maybe outside of our comfort zone, but we can only do that if we understand what our comfort zone is. As a high extrovert, I need to know when to shut up. I was very guilty in coaching sessions of controlling the coaching session, wanting to give people the answer, wanting to show almost how clever I am, rather than allowing the coachee to come to the understanding and process the information themselves. You can only do that if you know where you're at your best and where you're not at your best. Okay. People who are introverts can be incredible public speakers. They can be the social center of attention. It just takes a little bit more effort. People that are abstract thinkers can be more detail orientated. It just takes a little bit more effort. Nothing worth having ever came easy. So if we put that effort in, we can completely change the way that we influence. We can change the value that we add. So first one is understand ourselves. Second one is understand others. You don't have to be a Darren Brown, or you don't even have to run psychometric tests and MBTI and NEO and all this kind of stuff. Just speak to your people. If you find your people they're always very kind of quiet and reflective, then ask them, how do you like your coaching sessions to go? Do you want something in advance to know what we're talking about so you can kind of structure it and prepare for it? Do you like an after session so you can kind of tell me what you've reflected on from our conversations, but you can tailor your approach to them by understanding them. And the easiest way to understand them isn't by giving them a model or a test. It's talk to them, just ask them. Okay. And remember, as the final takeaway, personality is your traits, which are part of you, your states, which is the environment that you're in, and your mates, the social group that's around you, which includes your team in the contact center. The state and the mate are in our control, and how we decide to interact with our teams, that can change the way that we make the most of everybody's personality. So thank you very much for listening to me. Hopefully that's been of a little bit of interest. Or have I made Martin fall asleep?
No, well, you would have seen me backstage and nod. This is why I put these things together, because I'm sure, like everyone, Danny, I was just thinking, yeah, that's me. That's me. That's me. These are people that I've worked with. And it's so nice. You can tell me what this means about me and my brain. I think it's so nice to have a framework to be able to apply this, because you might have these nebulous thoughts about your team and yourself, but to be able to go, oh, on openness, they're here, which means this, and conscientiousness, I'm this, which means I've got to be wary of that, but I'm good at this. I love that. And like you said, we're complex people, aren't we? So I absolutely love that, and I'm sure people that are watching did as well. If any of you've got any questions or comments, please just drop them in, because that is just a 15-minute snapshot of how amazing Danny is. So Danny, thank you so much. And if you want to get more of that, then Danny's on LinkedIn. Fergan is the company. And Danny, you've always got ways that people can contact you. What's the best way?
I'm pretty active on LinkedIn, as you know, or you can go to fergan.com. Thank you, Darren. And the main thing is that there are no good or bad personalities. I don't submit to that. Even things like narcissism is a good trait in certain situations. Narcissism's tied with things like the rules don't apply to me. I'm special. So actually, entrepreneurs probably need to be narcissistic. The challenge is, how do you create the environment where those things don't cause conflict and clashes within the group? It's where you can see everybody's unique benefits that they bring. And that's what Fergan's all about. How do you create the environment where you can be you?
That's brilliant. I was just thinking, wouldn't it be funny if you left that door and we're actually in the same building? You just popped your head through.
This is actually, this probably ties in quite well. I'm in the shed quarters. So this is an office garden that I've got. My partner is very structured, to-do list and organized. And as I've already explained, I'm not. I'm very kind of big picture, abstract ideas. So when I built this, there's a huge window on this side that overlooks some fields, but I didn't know how big it was going to be because I was getting it from a reclaim yard. If I'd have told my partner that, she'd have flipped out, because she needs the to-do list of how big is it, what's it going to cost, what's the structure, etc. So what I did was, rather than doing my normal style, which is, trust me, it's fine, it'll all be all right, I'll just turn up at the airport with my passport, that's all I need. Instead, I literally drew her a picture of where's all the battens, where's the bricks, made up numbers, but that gave her the kind of psychological security that she could go and pick out paint colors and the detail stuff that isn't my cup of tea. Now, normally that might have been a clash, but actually you create the environment where she can do what she's great at and I can do what I'm great at, and we're more than the sum of our parts. And that's what great teams do.
I love it. Well, Danny, thank you so much. Do hang around, because I know you like the comments for the read along, and I'm sure you'll be interested in the next bit. But thank you so much for doing this.
Thanks for having me, and thanks everybody for listening.
Some great comments there, and rightly so. That was brilliant from Danny. And as I mentioned, Also, in an insightful kind of way, there's a event that I would like to point you towards. It includes one of our favorites and two other awesome people. Um, there's a webinar coming up the 29th of February. It's a date you should be able to remember. Only happens, is this the one? Only happens every 4 years. Intelligent Insights, Transforming Contact Centers with CCAS Analytics and AI. And that, as you can see in the middle there, the lovely Neris will be joined by Colin and Angela, equally awesome human beings. I'm hoping as well, I saw Tristan and Katie. It would be great if you could share the link in the comments. I'm going. I hope some of you guys will go as well, because this will be fascinating. I think Neris already always guarantees that it's going to be interesting, but I think it's a topic that warrants a lot of conversation. There is a lot going on in this space, and it will be nice to be able to cut through it all. Thank you, Katie. There you go. Look, so I will leave that on. Register for your seat 10 a.m. on the 29th. I will definitely be there. I'm looking forward to listening to Colin, Neris, and Angela talk about analytics and AI. So thank you very much, Katie. Hopefully, I'm trying with this show as well now to cut through a lot of the noise and just show you some of the things that are worthy of our time. We're always so busy. I'm trying to think what that means from what Danny just shared, because it was brilliant, wasn't it? Okay, now then, yes, Katie, see you there. Katie's awesome, by the way. Now it's a favorite. It's a favorite bit. We're back. I said, am I geeky that I really was looking forward to this? Because without further ado, it's time for the new one's out. The new one is out. The UK Contact Center Decision Makers Guide from 2024 is out. Now, with the permission of Steve at Contact Babel, we're okay to carry on, which is great. Kind of do it and what's it? Ask for permission later or forgiveness. So this was a random sample of the industry. 225 contact center managers and directors were given detailed, structured questionnaire in October and November of last year, and the analysis was done November, December. And we're going to take a dive into that. This is going to be a regular part of the show. I just thought I would share some of the segments. They have there's plenty of verticals in there. It covers B2B, B2C. There's a lot that it incorporates. I'm just having a look for the number of verticals, but there's plenty. It kind of covers our whole industry, which is one of the things we love about it, isn't it? So sizes wise, when you see small, that means there's 10 to 50 agents. Medium is 51 to 200, and large is over 200 agents. And we're going to go through this. There's 433 pages. Now, of course, a lot of those are their supporters and people that have paid for the report and some commentary. We're going to go through the graphics because I'm very visually orientated. And the very first section, which kind of relates to the webinar that OneCom are running, is on MI. So our first one to think about is the use of MI systems by contact center size. Straight away, I think if you're in this space and you either provide that as a service, I would be looking at this and thinking you've got an opportunity there in the small contact centers, because 19% of the respondees said that they had no plans to implement MI. They're quite happy just asking each other, how's it going? Yeah, it's going all right. Done. You can see the average that 67% use it. They're fine with it. They're not going to replace it. But again, as an average, 9% don't have it, don't plan on implementing it. Unsurprisingly, I guess, the large contact centers, 80% have it, they're fine. 4% though will implement it within 12 months. You wonder how they're getting by right now without it. I guess, are they using some bastardized version that comes with something else? What do you think? When you look at this, are there any surprises? I guess I was drawn to the small contact center that 19% don't have any plans to implement this. They don't have management information systems, I'm assuming, which is dangerous, of course, isn't it? But what are we thinking about that? Maybe nothing at all. Maybe it's like, yeah, it is what it is. We're going for a drive. Fancy coming? Yeah. Driver puts on blindfold. That's what I thought. How's things? How are we doing? Baffled. Yeah, me too, Alan. 19%. And even on the medium side. So if we remember, medium is 51 to 200 agents. Even 10 to 50 still. You've still got an operation there that's worth at least having some MI on. Maybe it's the word systems. Yeah, so that's what I mean. Is it in the semantics, Bev? Good call out. They have reporting, albeit maybe it is all driven by people. I'm sure we've all been there. I've talking about Danny's brilliant GOOWx. One of the tasks I had to do as a contact center manager, which I detested, was all of the reporting. It will sometimes take me the whole day, only for somebody to take a cursory glance at it and then go, yeah, fine, hopefully it will be better tomorrow. Well, I've spent all day doing the report, so I haven't had a chance to influence performance, would be my comeback. Darren, yeah, maybe you're right. Did they understand the question? You would imagine they have MI of some sort. Some keen guy who is a bit whizzy at Excel. That's what I'm thinking, Pete. That is what I'm thinking. Good to see you, my friend. And can I just say thank you, Pete, for coordinating the you wonderful people of LinkedIn that were able to come to my surprise. And Pete, I value you and appreciate you as a human being. So thank you very much. Yeah, I do. I think that maybe this is that they have somebody and they don't feel like they need anything better because what they have through somebody that's keen and good, they get it from Excel, right? Let's have a look at the use of MI by verticals. Um, Again, you have to be careful here, I guess, with the numbers. So, insurance, for example, maybe they only had a few respondees. Let me see if I can find it because they're all over it, which isn't a surprise, but you do wonder about the veracity of. Here we go. So, oh, actually, there were 20 respondees in insurance. So, my bad. Uh, they seem to have it nailed. All of them have management information systems. Utilities also very well represented, as is housing. Transport and travel, again, drawn to that one. 25% no plans to implement. Whereas you think to use this transport and travel, you were ahead of the game there, Danny, on that one. Let's go. Where are we going? I don't know. We're just going. Um, so, good question, Danny. Insurance is FCA regulated. Is it a requirement? Hence the 100%. Do we have anyone here that can answer that question? Services again, you're looking at some of these retail and distribution. It kind of doesn't. Oh, hi, Mark. Collating MI is all good and well. Making an informed action plan based on the information, well, mate, not so much in a few companies. True. I often felt like that in that little kind of story I told, that we'd spend all too much time producing and reviewing and not enough time doing. But maybe that's because of my mindset using the ocean plan. I didn't like that. I just wanted to do. So interesting. Now, this one is the first one that I thought, oh, everyone's going to like this. So, what the respondees were asked, what is the most important contact center metric? We've seen this in previous versions. This is the most up to date one, and they were given 8 to choose from, and they were asked to rank them in importance, with dark green being the most important, all the way down to red being the least important. And you can see here that the respondees said average call duration was the least important contact center metric. I don't want to fill in the gaps, but what do you think of that? Plus, also cost per call was then, you could make a case for that being ranked the least important over average call duration. The most important from all of the respondees as an average was customer satisfaction rating, NPS, followed by agent quality scores, first contact resolution rate, call abandonment rate, speed to answer, adherence to service levels, and then the two tail end Charlies were cost per call and average call duration. So that has to prompt some kind of comments from you guys. I was like, oh, this is a good one. So whilst I just, you must have some thoughts on that, people. What do you think? Because from my, I'm just going to go for it. From my point of view, I think the respondees could say that these are the least important, but when it comes to making big decisions, these still very much are very, very important. Unless I'm out of the loop and I'm reading this wrong. Mark says call duration. Surely this is how you can forecast effectively. This might be the reason why I've been on hold for hours recently. Well, Mark, I'm with you, because we found, didn't we, that last time customers just want to be their calls answered quickly. That alone, doing that one thing, would improve our industry's perception and customer satisfaction metrics. Alan says this will be driven by the requirements dictated by the business. Low cost will drive ACD to increase productivity. Very true. Danny, we on the front line know AHT is rubbish, but the decision makers have a different view. That's very true. So true. Speed to answer is disappointing. And Bev, I know this is one that you bang the drum on, rightly so. What we know from this data in the survey last year, customers place high importance on it. Exactly. Exactly. If we get that right, all other things, that's like the first domino. We get speed to answer and we really focus on that as an industry. Guess what? We know our people are good. We know that they're going to deliver well. Actually, processes and technology's never been better, but we never give people the opportunity to really experience that because they've had to wait so long to speak to us. And guess what's happening in that time? They are really frustrated and becoming more frustrated the longer they wait. If we get to the call quicker or the chat quicker, if we get to our customers quicker, we will see a vastly improved perception of our industry, and that will manifest itself in better customer satisfaction ratings. And there'll be less headlines about customer service has never been so low. That area right there is the one we should focus on, but it's not deemed as the most important contact center metric. We need to get the respondees on this show. um, so I'm conscious of time, but I'm really pleased that we've been able to have a new version to start going through. I can't go without. So gaming CSAT and MPS to get the scores we want. Again, Pete, that's one I know that you are passionate about. Then using that as a key metric. Wonder why perception of CX is that it's never been as bad. So true. Look at the people on this show right now. You're all experts. You're all experienced. You know what you're doing, and you're talking sense. You guys should be in charge. Danny Wareham, TCF MI will be a key priority for insurance firms. Thanks, Amanda. That's brilliant. Answering Danny's earlier question. So, more of the same next week. Massive thanks to all of you, and huge thanks to Danny for educating us. Um, thought as much. I don't know if I tested with Danny earlier when we were just prior to going live that you can't hear my furry friend. He had an operation yesterday. He had two spherical objects removed from his body, and he is absolutely all over the place. So I'm going to say goodbye and go and see to my furry friend. I hope you all have a wonderful rest of the day, rest of the week. I will see you all next Tuesday. Thank you all so much. I love doing this. Really enjoyed it. Let's see how horrendous I look watching back. I will. No way, Danny. It was great. Honestly, it's just really nice to be around people that know what they're talking about and to learn. It's what it's all about, isn't it? So, thank you all very much. I hope you have a lovely day and see you all next Tuesday.